We know that this is going to be a pretty juicy story. What I want to bring up here is the concept of fate and the fates. There is the introduction of something that's a little bit off balance, off kilter, something that has a lot of superstition and folklore associated with it. The lyric here, 2190 days, is where we're gonna do some math. We stand math. It's like the algorithm has been altered. She's being presented with someone different on her For You page. Hi everyone, welcome to this video. On my channel, I analyze song lyrics very in depth through the lens of literary analysis. Today we're going to be analyzing the song Glitch by Taylor Swift from her newest album, Midnights. We're going to decipher Glitch's song meaning by looking at things like diction, connotation, metaphors, etc. Here's a list of literary terms I may refer to throughout this video, and as always, everything I state is just my own personal opinion. Music is of course very subjective, and I always love hearing what you think down below in the comments. I analyze quite a lot of Taylor Swift on this channel. I think we're up to about 30 plus analyses so far, so I will make sure to link my Taylor Swift analysis playlist below for you. We're almost done with all the folklore songs. We're making good headway on Evermore. I've also touched upon her other albums as well. Now I'm excited that Midnights is going to be in the mix too. After I'm done with all the songs, I will be doing album summaries and other fun things as well, so make sure to stay tuned. So far from Midnights, I've analyzed the songs Antihero, Sweet Nothing, and You're on Your Own, Kid. Make sure to stay tuned for more Midnights analyses coming soon. Let's dive straight in with the song title. A glitch is defined as a sudden, usually temporary, malfunction or irregularity of equipment. A glitch is a small fault or problem, especially one that stops something from working. It's important to note that a glitch usually isn't used to refer to human issues or humanistic issues. That word is usually used to refer to issues within machinery or technology. So to me, that has a bit of a dehumanizing connotation because in this song, it's used to refer to love and relationships, which I would argue are very humanistic. You know, we have the mention of situationships in the song. I would define a situationship as like an entanglement of sorts, I guess. It's where you don't really know where you stand with someone romantically. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of uneven, unstable ground. And to me, existing in situationships with people can be a pretty dehumanizing experience. It's void of any substance or value. I think it's important to keep in mind that a glitch is neutral. What I mean by that is a glitch isn't right or wrong. It's not ethical or unethical. A glitch is a malfunction within a system that's already been set up. So the glitch that's being referred to in the song is not like an all-knowing sort of entity. There's going to be a glitch in what the protagonist defines as her normal. And we're going to get into the specifics of this as we go through this song and as we discuss the diction in the song. There's a lot of very interesting technical diction that's void of emotions. I think the song is about the protagonist being super shook that she has found someone who can actually give her a real relationship with substance and value. The glitch here is referring to the love interest who actually wants to participate in a stable, wonderful relationship with the protagonist. To me, the glitch is a positive thing here, but to the protagonist, she is using the diction glitch because to her, it's like the whole system she set up for herself of maybe not getting attached to the people she's dating or the walls she's put up. All of that system, all of that framework, that algorithm, I've never taken a computer science class in my life, okay? All of that is glitching out. That's how I think about this song. I feel like this song is pretty flirty, right? The way that Taylor sings it, her voice cracks a few times. It's just kind of like there's some attitude in this song. I really enjoy that. I also think Bejeweled is a very flirty song. Let's get started with verse 1. We were supposed to be just friends. The first lyric of this song brings forth a lot of intrigue. Like, I want to know what's been going on, right? We're being dropped right in the middle of a story here. We're not starting at the beginning. Stuff has already gone down. We know that this is going to be a pretty juicy story. We're also given some context clues. The protagonist was not expecting to find someone that she could have a relationship with. She was just going to be on platonic terms with this person, but that did not happen. Love was in the air. You don't live in my part of town, but maybe I'll see you out some weekend. That's a very casual sort of statement. There's no commitment with this sort of statement. It's not like actual plans are being made. And I say that because of the diction here, the word maybe. It's very conditional. I feel like the protagonist just met the love interest here and she's like, yeah, okay, whatever. It's a type of statement you make when you literally don't care. Then verse 1 goes on to say, depending on what kind of mood and situationship I'm in and what's in my system. Again, I get casual vibes, I get low commitment vibes from this whole verse. There's like no explicit interest being expressed on part of the protagonist. And the word situationship here to me is very telling. I already discussed how I would define situationships when I discuss a song title, but in my opinion, keep in mind everyone's different, but in my opinion, if someone is chronically in situationships romantically, you can get burnt out from that. And people may subconsciously or even consciously choose to exist in situationships because they're trying to avoid real emotions, or maybe they're just, you know, in an interesting spot in their life dating wise. But I feel like even if you are choosing to be in situationships with people, you're gonna get tired of it sooner or later. And for some people, it may be after a few months, for some people maybe a few years, but it's something that I think could emotionally burn you out. When you exist in a state of emotional burnout, you don't really take anything seriously in like a romantic sense. You don't really place a value on like dating and love that much because all of your experiences recently have been void of anything of value. And you know, like situationships, maybe they can be fun for some people, but I would argue they're void of anything of substance. And maybe sometimes that's what someone needs, but I think long term, it's not anything that's going to fill your emotional cup. When it says and what's in my system, this could be referring to alcohol, to drinking, or maybe even recreational substances. It brings forth the feeling of an altered state a little bit, which is interesting. I talked all about altered states in the song Cruel Summer. I'll link it down below for you. And interestingly enough, I do think that this song and Cruel Summer are about the same relationship. We're gonna do some math a little bit later in this song, and the math that I performed very dramatically is going to suggest, allegedly, that this relationship is about Taylor and Joe Alwyn. We don't know if this is autobiographical or not. It could be inspired by true events and then fictionalized. That's why we're gonna keep saying protagonist and romantic interest. But you know, math. We love math, right? And when I think about an altered state here, I think about someone who is not in their baseline state of existence. When you're in an altered state, you're not thinking clearly sometimes, or you are thinking clearly, but you're thinking clearly in a different realm. To me, when I hear that lyric, I think about someone who is not existing in a space of clarity. Everything feels kind of muddled. That's kind of the emotional, romantic context I get from the lyrics in verse 1. They're in situationships. They maybe are existing in an altered state due to, you know, what they're drinking or maybe substances they're taking. And they also don't really take this potential love interest seriously. I don't blame them. If you've been in situationships for a long time, it's hard to take anything seriously, I would assume, because the fact that they're saying, yeah, I'll hang out with you, but it depends on my mood, very low commitment, you're setting yourself up to be able to bail last minute by saying comments like that. And I actually don't think the protagonist said these things directly to the love interest. I think she's just thinking about this in her head. Chorus. I interrupt this video with a very special message from myself. This is sponsored by me. I want to let you guys know that I'm offering services on the website Fiverr. I'm offering a few different things. I can help you refine your own analysis skills to develop your own unique perspective about poetry, about song lyrics, about any written work. I've also been getting a lot of messages from you guys letting me know that you use my videos to help you learn English. So if you need an English conversation partner, I'm your girl. We can converse through the internet. I can help you with pronunciation, sentence structure, and random things about American culture that are not super intuitive. If you're a songwriter or a poet and want me to read your original piece of work and provide you with a very detail-oriented feedback, I can do that as well. All that information is going to be linked down below. If you have any questions about any of the services I'm offering, please message me directly through the website Fiverr. Back to the video that you actually clicked here for. The chorus is illustrating a moment where there's been a little bit of change for the protagonist. She is starting to realize that there's something different about this love interest in particular. It says, I think there's been a glitch. We defined glitch already when we were talking about the song title. For the protagonist, the framework she's built up, the like electronic computer framework. You guys, again, I don't know how computers work. I'm being honest with you. So like, just know that the framework, the algorithm, the HTML. I only know like HTML from MySpace. I'm a millennial. I'm so sorry. Bracket, marquee, the line that goes like this. marquee, like bracket. I know how to do a marquee in HTML. I use that in my About Me section, okay? But the framework, the code she had for her romantic life is starting to malfunction now. There's been a glitch. And a glitch is often temporary, right? It can kind of come and go. Remember when Taylor put an Easter egg of a glitch in one of her TikToks and we did not realize it till Midnights came out? That glitch was literally a nanosecond. It's still an inkling that something is different. 5 seconds later, I'm fastening myself to you with a stitch. 5 seconds is a very short time period. It goes by very fast. And I would argue that 5 seconds is a time frame in which you can't really think through your actions that much, especially if you are starting to like someone and there is like emotions at play. And you can also think about glitch here as the protagonist having a moment of awareness. There's been a shift in the pattern for the protagonist. She's being romantically presented with someone different. It's like the algorithm has been altered. She's being presented with someone different on her For You page. And remember, the protagonist, we're going to find out, is used to dudes who give nothing. So if she's used to that sort of behavior, if she notices someone is acting differently, you get kind of overexcited and you may show your hand too soon and you may start to metaphorically fasten yourself to someone with a stitch very quickly. Let's define some words. To fasten something means to attach firmly or securely in place, to fix securely to something else. It's when you make something secure. The protagonist is attaching herself in a secure way to this love interest. She is the one doing the fastening, right? It's an action the protagonist is undertaking. Let's talk about a stitch because this could be very important deciding on how you want to interpret it. A stitch is defined as a piece of thread sewn into cloth with a needle. When you stitch something, you work upon something to join, mend, or fasten. And to stitch something takes a little bit of effort. It's definitely a skill. What I want to bring up here is the concept of fate and the fates. We had a mention of the fates in Taylor's song Mastermind on this album. Once upon a time, the planets and the fates all aligned. Right? So the fates can be thought of as a trio of goddesses. Within Greek mythology, art, and literature, the three fates are often depicted as weaving yarn on a loom. When they're weaving, it's as if they're weaving someone's fate. Here we have the word stitch, and usually with a stitch, you would use a piece of thread. Let's think about Taylor's lyrics. Let's think about the song Invisible String. A single thread of gold tied me to you. Right? I've touched upon this a little bit in my Taylor Swift analyses. The color gold is very important in regards to Taylor's relationship with Joe Alwyn. Deep blue, but you painted me golden. Made your mark on me, a golden tattoo. Here we have the mention of a stitch. It's not a gold stitch, but I'm thinking about a thread and a needle and stitching something. And the fact that I'm thinking about a thread reminds me of that lyric from Invisible String, a single thread of gold tied me to you. And I have already analyzed Invisible String. I will link my analysis below for you. That song is very much about fate and how the protagonist in that song was fated to meet their love. We also talk about fate in another song on this album. I'm thinking about Mastermind. It's interesting because we have the concept of fate discussed in that song, but we also have the protagonist saying that she played a hand in it as well. We often think about fate as something that occurs without intervention, or if someone else tries to intervene, it doesn't matter. What's meant to happen will happen. But in Mastermind, we have the protagonist saying that she's the one who played an integral role in what happened. We'll talk more about that when I analyze the song Mastermind. It's such a cool song on this album. I think it needs to be hyped more because there's so much stuff that we can talk about in regards to that song, so stay tuned for that. But I do find it interesting that fate is a concept that is present in a lot of Taylor's songs, and I do think about fate here as well because of Taylor's lyrics, because of the song Invisible String, and even in the Willow music video that I analyzed, there's a thread of gold, right? I also think this could be significant because of the three fates. I think that a needle and thread is similar to weaving something with a loom and with yarn. So to me, it's kind of like the protagonist maybe taking fate into her own hands, and this could be connected to Mastermind in a way. I think that's really interesting and very clever writing. If that was the intent, even if it's not the intent, I still think this is very clever writing. There's so much you can take from this and so many different ways you can interpret it. I want to know what you think about the word stitch. Do you think it has to do with fate, or do you view it a different way? Feel free to share your thoughts with me down below. And I'm not even sorry. Nights are so starry. Blood moon lit. very interesting. The protagonist is saying that she has hashtag no regrets. She's not sorry about fastening herself with a stitch to this Jude. Nights are so starry, blood moonlit. I find those lyrics to be very interesting, especially the mention of a blood moon. First, let's talk about the nights are so starry lyric. I've talked about stars before on this channel. There's different ways to interpret it. Within the context of this song, we can think about stars as a light within the darkness of the night sky. So we can think about it in the context of light versus dark imagery. Light imagery often being positive because it illuminates things, it provides clarity. It can also signal a renewal and a rebirth. And dark imagery is often negative. You can't see anything in the dark, right? So there could be mysterious things going on. There could be ominous things going on. Or it could just not be that deep in this context. Starry nights are just cute and pleasant, and they can be very romantic. So there's different ways to think about it. I am thinking more about like setting and context with the nights are so starry lyric. I do think it's significant because it's letting us know that there is something going on at night here. I do think they're hanging out at night, you know, they're up on the roof with a schoolgirl crush, drinking beers out of plastic cups, perhaps. Maybe the love interest would say, I fancy you, not fancy stuff. Just a guess, but they're probably hanging out at night. That is perhaps the setting under which these revelations occurred for the protagonist. That's one way to think about it. What I think is very interesting is blood moonlit. When I heard this the first time without looking at the lyric, I thought the word lit was used as slang, like it's lit, you know? However, when you look at the lyrics, and the lyrics that I'm using are from under her YouTube lyric video, moonlit is one word. When I heard it the first time, I thought blood moon was one word and then lit was one word. And when she sings it, that's what it sounds like. So it's kind of like, oh, like it's lit, but it's blood moonlit. Let's talk about a blood moon. A blood moon occurs when there's a total lunar eclipse, which occurs during a full moon. During a total lunar eclipse, the moon is fully in Earth's shadow. A blood moon specifically looks red. So there's a few different ways to think about this. Maybe there was literally a blood moon that happened at some specific time within the relationship and like it has some significance for them. There's a lot of superstition surrounding a blood moon. It has been associated with the end of times. There's like blood moon prophecies. Some people believe that the blood moon is going to cause blood to be shed. So there could be events that occur, maybe natural disasters or wars because of a blood moon. There's a lot of different ways you can approach this. However, to me, what is guiding this interpretation is literally the syntax, the sentence structure, or like the lyric structure of this lyric where moonlit is one word. Let's compare just like moonlight, regular moonlight, to like blood moonlight. I've talked about the moon before. I talk about it quite often in my Lana Del Rey analyses. I often talk about how while I do view the moon and moonlight as being very romantic and soft, I do think it's kind of somber sometimes because the moon can't create its own light. It's not self-sufficient in that way because moonlight is sunlight reflected onto the moon. So I do sometimes interpret moonlight in a somber way. It always depends on the context. However, for our purposes here, for this comparison, I would think about regular moonlight as just being romantic, right? It's just romantic and cute. But blood moonlight would be off kilter a little bit. Think about if you're on a date and you look up and you see like the moon, right? Oh, romantic, so cute. It's like a moment. But if it's like a blood moon, which is tinged red, it's different. It may catch you by surprise if you don't know what's going to happen. Just the literal word blood moon, the word blood here, it brings forth maybe an unsettled feeling, maybe an eerie feeling, especially because this is occurring during a full moon. Listen, this is like kind of superstitious. There hasn't really been scientific evidence saying that weird stuff happens on full moons. I will preface this by saying that I stan science. I love facts, graphs, peer-reviewed research. We stan. However, I have worked in retail before, and a lot of weird things have happened on full moons. You might say that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. However, I disagree, because oftentimes weird things were happening that were out of the norm, and I did not know it was a full moon until I decided to Google it during my break. So I was like, this must be a full moon because this is happening, and it was. So yeah, you don't have to believe that. Obviously, this is just anecdotal data. I know a lot of people who work nights, who have worked during full moons, have had anecdotal data as well. Sometimes weird things go down, you know, sometimes your computer just stops working and there's like a blackout of your registers on a full moon. I don't know. Sometimes the energy of the people that come in are very specific. Let me know what you think about that down below. This is obviously not rooted in like hard-hitting scientific facts. Even though I stand science, I still think that sometimes things exist in life that can't be explained. We are also analyzing art. We don't need a peer-reviewed research paper to talk about what a blood moon may connote. It's literally just how you feel, and if you're able to back it up with what is in the art that you're analyzing, then that's valid. So that's definitely something interesting to think about. It makes me feel like something would be off kilter, something would feel different. There could be like an eerie vibe in the air. Feel free to share your thoughts about moon, full moon, and blood moon down below. I would be interested to hear your thoughts about that. When we go back to the lyric here, nights are so starry, that's romantic and cute, but then we have blood moonlit. There is the introduction of something that's a little bit off balance, off kilter, something rare, but something that also has a lot of superstition and folklore associated with it, right? To me, those two lyrics are opposing one another. The nights are starry is cute. Blood moonlit introduces a lot of different things into the song. A blood moon is relatively rare, but it can also maybe be ominous for some people. This all depends on how you want to view and interpret blood moon. To me, it's meant to connote something that is different from the norm. When you look at the lyric video for this song, it's literally of a blood moon. It's not super red, but I think there's a little bit of a tinge of red, and it's interesting because the color red and variations of the color red, for example maroon, seem to be very important to Taylor as well. That's another layer to this that we can think about. So to me, the lyrics, the nights are so starry, blood moonlit, they're introducing unbalance and opposition into this song. We also have the word stitch, which we can think about in terms of fate. So we have the concept of fate and some folklore and some superstition. We have things that are intangible. We have things that are rooted in history. This is very interesting. This to me makes everything the protagonist is feeling and experiencing have more weight and more value. Since these things have a sort of history to them, the three fates, the superstition, and the folklore around blood moons, it makes it seem more intentional. The protagonist and the love interest meeting. It makes me think that they were destined to meet in a way. Then it says it must be counterfeit. Something counterfeit is something fake. It's a fraud. It's something made in imitation of something else with the intent to deceive. So the protagonist here is saying that this thing that feels very monumental and fateful and something out of maybe like an old story is happening here. It's something important and valuable, but it also feels fake because she's not used to it, but also maybe because it's too much to try to digest. When you realize that there's something monumental in front of you that is real and valuable and that's backed up by like history, like ancestral history, like both of your ancestral histories have brought you to this moment to meet, that could scare you emotionally, right? So you're like, no, it's counterfeit. It's fake. Self-preservation. And then we have repetition of the lyric. I think there's been a glitch. This is interesting because the first time that lyric is stated, the first line of this chorus, that's before the protagonist explores all of the thoughts she did in this chorus. Even after thinking about all of those things, or perhaps feeling all of those things emotionally, she says, I think there's been a glitch. That diminishes the intensity of all of the metaphorical things prior. This is very like emotionally heavy for the protagonist, I would assume. Sometimes it's easier to just say like, oh, there's been a glitch. It's just something random that happened. It doesn't mean anything. Remember that glitches are often temporary and can be fixed, right? This is just a temporary thing. This isn't going to turn into a relationship. People will do this subconsciously as a form of self-protection, or someone could do this on purpose because they don't want to deal with real emotions, because that takes effort and vulnerability. Verse 2. I was supposed to sweat you out. So the protagonist is talking about how, according to the game of dating, she wasn't supposed to attach herself so quickly to this person. She wasn't supposed to fasten herself with a stitch to him in just 5 seconds. She was supposed to play it cool and maybe play cat and mouse for a month or 2 or 3. This indicates to me that she usually did this. She usually sweated guys out. She usually played hard to get, but with this person, she couldn't. He was different. The next lyric is one I find very satisfying. It says, in search of glorious happenings of happenstance on someone else's playground. Glorious happenings of happenstance. Chef's kiss. I find that to be so beautiful and eloquent. Glorious means something delightful, something wonderful, something enjoyable. And happenstance means something that happens by chance, by coincidence. Maybe you can also think about that in terms of fate. So the protagonist was in search of delightful coincidences, and happenings can refer to occurrences, right? So this is just very interesting diction-wise. It's very witty and eloquent the way it's stated. When it says someone else's playground, I think this refers refers to a different social scene than one the protagonist usually frequents. So in the first two lines of this verse, the protagonist is saying she was supposed to play hard to get. She's been searching for, wonderful coincidences in this new area of town. So it's supposed to be something chill, something fun, but she found him. She found someone who is not like the other guys. You could read this as being a little bit hyperbolic. Hyperbolic means exaggerated, glorious happenings of happenstance. It's a very cool phrase. Again, I love it, but this could also showcase that the protagonist was just looking for things that were very fun and exaggerated and out of this world. She wanted to run into someone and maybe have like a very passion-fueled romance, maybe lasted for a month or even for like a weekend. What's ironic is that she did find a glorious happening of happenstance, but one that wasn't a quick, passionate sort of thing. It was one that was a very sustainable, beautiful thing that you could build. But it's been 2,190 days of our love blackout. The lyric here, 2,190 days, is where we're gonna do some math. 2,190 days is equal to 6 years. Interesting. The song Glitch was on Taylor's album Midnights, which came out in 2022. 2022 minus 6. 2016. What year did Taylor and Joe Alwyn start dating? 2016. Interesting. Interesting. We stan math. This is one reason why this song may allegedly be about Taylor's relationship with Joe, but again, we don't know for sure. We can only speculate and assume. I want to know what you think about that. Please comment your thoughts down below. I'm excited to read what you have to say. As always, let's talk about the word blackout. So blackout usually refers to a system failure of sorts, maybe like an electrical power supply blackout or outage. The 2,190 days are referring to the length of the relationship the protagonist has had with their romantic partner, about 6 years. It's being referred to here as a love blackout. The word blackout has a pretty negative connotation. It is defined as a system failure. But we have to remember this whole framework in which this glitch occurred in was a sad and negative framework. It's positive to have a blackout of this sad, negative situationship due to give nothing type of framework. It's good for something bad to stop working. It's like love is a force here, and it caused the blackout of this system that was causing the protagonist to exist in situationships and exist in just an emotional void. The system's breaking down. Again, I think this is the system the protagonist had either consciously or subconsciously set up to protect herself from being hurt in a romantic way. This is good. This is being depicted using diction that's not positive, but when you think about what this means metaphorically, this is positive. It's just being represented in a dramatized way, which is very fun to analyze and very satisfying to listen to. Bridge. A brief interruption, a slight malfunction. The word brief and slight, that's very quick-paced diction. They both are suggestive of a very short time span. For me, the bridge here is still referring to a time frame before things became super serious between the protagonist and their romantic partner. So when it says a brief interruption, it's like there has been an interruption in the protagonist's old ways and her old patterns in regards to dating and the types of people she's been dating, and there's been a slight malfunction. So a malfunction refers to something not functioning normally. A malfunction in this context, remember, would be positive because that framework, that algorithm was not positive for the protagonist. So this is before things became serious. This is when the protagonist has started to have an inkling that this love interest may be different and that her dating patterns may be changing now because of him. Her love life is changing now. I think those two lyrics may be representing some flutters of awareness the protagonist may have had, starting to realize that things were about to change for her. It's an interruption of her old ways and an interruption of her patterns. I'd go back to wanting dudes to give nothing. I think initially the protagonist may have viewed this love interest as being someone who is going to be in her life temporarily. If we are to think about other songs about this relationship, initially it started off as a friends with benefits scenario. That's the impression I get from all of the songs that are allegedly about this relationship. So it would make sense that the protagonist wasn't all in at first and why she thought this was a glitch. She thought this was temporary. It wasn't gonna last. She was probably thinking to herself, you know what, after this slight malfunction, after this temporary good thing, she'll go back to wanting dudes to give nothing. The diction here is important. The word dude is very casual. There is no like substance to that word. A dude in this context is like a nobody. Like they don't have a name because they're not going to be anyone significant in her life. She was thinking she would have to go back to those situationships that are void of anything of substance and value. Then the protagonist says, I thought we had no chance, and that's romance. So again, she didn't think that this malfunction, this brief, beautiful thing in this context was gonna last. She didn't think that they could make it. You can interpret and that's romance in two different ways. You can interpret it in like any way you want, but I have two ideas. First, you can interpret it as the protagonist defining romance. For her, it was something negative. She's like, yeah, like this is gonna be a temporary good thing, and after that, back to the situationship. That's her definition of romance because that's what she's been experiencing. Or maybe she's referring to the type of romance that's very like dramatic and flirty, fleeting, and passionate just for a moment. The type of romance that's like mysterious, the type of romance that's perhaps a burning red and not golden, right? Then the protagonist says, let's dance. I love this lyric so much. We talked about how dancing is a dangerous game in my analysis of Cowboy Like Me. Feel free to check it out. It'll be linked down below. That's what I thought of when I first heard this lyric. I do not think these songs are related, but I just literally thought about that when I heard this lyric the first time. Dancing is a very intimate thing when it's between two people. There has to be like a level of trust between two dancing partners. There can be some intimacy. There can be some flirtations during a dance. It's something that is very intimate. Dancing with someone is a partnership. You have to coordinate your movements. You have to be in flow with one another. And also when I think about dancing, I think about cute outfits that are potentially coordinated. To me, this is an instance when the protagonist is like giving in to the situation. She's gonna stop thinking about if this is a temporary glitch in her reality. She's just gonna enjoy it. However, dancing is also something that you need to give attention to. It's not like you're jumping in with your eyes closed. It's something that you enter with awareness and intent. Your partner is gonna extend their hand and you're gonna accept it. There is communication in dancing. So it's not like the protagonist is jumping in blindly, but she is allowing this to move forward. I find that very satisfying. And then we have the repetition of the chorus and then the song ends. So those are all of the unique lyrics. To sum up, I think the song Glitch is about a protagonist who is experiencing a glitch, a malfunction in her current reality in regards to her dating life. A glitch may have a negative connotation, but the framework, the algorithm that this protagonist has been existing in has not been one that is serving her. It's been a pretty somber reality, a pretty somber algorithm filled with lots of situationships. So the glitch here is a positive thing. We do get some insight into the protagonist's thought processes and emotions about this glitch. She may think it's something fateful, she may think it's something temporary, and that may scare her. By the end of the bridge, she's ready to entertain this idea of the glitch and dance. I would love to know what you think about this song. Feel free to comment down below. I always enjoy reading your thoughts. My tutoring and critique services are also linked down below. Feel free to check that out. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it as always, and I'll see you next time. Bye!